Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi tahirin. In the previous session, we talked a little bit about the realities on the ground concerning the way of compiling hadith in the Sunni world, that they didn't allow any ugly thing, anything which is negative to be narrated about the Sahaba and Khulafa, and this was one of the conditions for accepting muhaddis to be reliable, not to mention such things. So a paradox is here. On one side, they say that it has to be narrated by reliable muhaddisin and narrators. So a reliable muhaddis should narrate that story. But on the other hand, if somebody was to narrate that story, that person was not considered to be reliable. So how could you find a reliable person by this criterion to narrate something about the Sahaba and Khulafa for you? And we said that they mentioned that it's the duty of any narrator to hide these things and to delete them from the books. So by all this censorship, it is not surprising that we may not find lots of the truth written and narrated in the books. And I said you have to be like a detective, struggling to find clues here and there, putting them together to come to a picture, a clear picture of the history. Then this is what we are going to do in this series, inshallah. Here I just want to refer to some cases, some of the scholars who have narrated some of these conflicts among the Sahaba. And then you see that what is the approach of muhaddisin, what is the approach of the Rijali and the Sunni scholars towards those people. One of these people who has narrated such a thing is Ibn Abi Daarim. He's a muhaddis, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Sarri bin Yahya bin Abi Daarim. Shamsuddin al-Zahabi in his book Mizan al-I'tidal volume 1 page 139, when he comes to this muhaddith, he says that وقال محمد بن أحمد بن حماد الكوفي الحافظ بعد أن أرخى موته كان مستقيم الأمر عامة دهره. He says, Muhammad ibn Ahmad says that Ibn Abi Daarim was a man of straight mind and he was on the right path all his life. So he was a person who was a reliable person all his life. ثم في آخر أيامه كان أكثر ما يقرأ عليه المثالب. But at the end of his life, this man Ibn Abi Daarim, he came to this understanding that he says that most of the time the negative things about the Khulafa was being read before him and being mentioned before him. حضرته ورجل يقرأ عليه. This person says, I went to meet him, I was in his presence while a man was reciting to him this phrase, إن عمر رفس فاطمة حتى أسقطت بمحسن. That Umar kicked Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, then Fatima miscarried her son Muhsin. So they say that Ibn Abi Daarim, I was there, I saw a man was reciting this historical point for Ibn Abi Daarim. And because of this, Ibn Abi Daarim is not a reliable person, even though all his life, كان مستقيم الأمر عامة الدهر, all his life, this man, this old person, scholar, was on the right path, was on the Sunni cause, but at the end of his life, somebody was reciting for him that Umar hit Lady Fatima al-Zahra and she miscarried Muhsin. Then Zahabi, because of this, starts to say very strange things about Ibn Abi Daarim. He says, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Sarri bin Yahya bin Abi Daarim al-Muhaddis al-Kufi al-Rafizi al-Kadhab. So this person is Rafizi, Ibn Abi Daarim is Rafizi. Don't forget that he said that he was straightforward, he was there on the right path all his life. Now he turned to be Rafizi al-Kadhab, a liar. ثم في آخر أيامه كان أكثر ما يقرأ عليه المثالب. Ibn Zahabi and Ibn Hajar, they narrate this, that at the end of his life, most of the time, the mathalib and crimes of Khulafa was being recited before him. So when we study the life of Ibn Abi Daarim, we see that this man, he has a very clear background. He was very reliable muhaddis. What made these Sunni scholars to consider him kazzab, liar, non-reliable, it is because he came to narrate things like that Umar hit Lady Fatima salamullah alayha. So how can you expect a scholar to be reliable and to narrate these things, while narrating these things is going to remove your reliability and trustworthiness? In another hadith, again, Zahabi narrates another hadith, not related to this story. Al-halalu bayyinun wal-haramu bayyinun wa bayna zalika mushtabihat. It's about halal and haram and those cases of the doubt. Then Zahabi, after Abi Daarim is in the chain of narration, he says this hadith is acceptable hadith, but Ibn Abi Daarim is there. Then Zahabi says, Al-hadith muttafaqun alayh. Then he comes to Ibn Abi Daarim, he says that Shaykhun zallun mu'thir. This old man was a misled and a crook. So he's insulting Ibn Abi Daarim. Why? Because the hadith of Ibn Abi Daarim, that Lady Fatima was hit, it should be rejected. Why? Because he is Rafidhi. In their definition, Rafidhi is a person who gives priority to Ali over Khulafa, over Umar and Abu Bakr. And if you consider Ali to be higher than them in position, then you are Rafidhi. And Rafidhiyun ghal, the extremist Rafidhi, is a person that beside considering Ali higher than the others, is to insult the Khulafa as well. Of course, Shia, the true Shia, they don't insult. We do not recommend, we do not advise. It is prohibited to insult the icons of any religion, icons of any faith, especially brothers in Islam. So we have academic discussions. We believe that we have to stay with the truth and defend the cause of Ahlul Bayt and to tell the truth about the historical events. But at the same time, we shouldn't forget that insulting is not acceptable. And this is not the path of Ahlul Bayt. This is not the method of Ahlul Bayt. This is not the method of Imams of Ahlul Bayt and Quranic teaching to insult. So insulting is not permitted. So you see that when somebody said something about Khulafa, I mean, again, look at the double standards. If somebody is to say something negative about Shaykhain or about Usman, that person is Rafidhi and this person's narration is not acceptable. But what if somebody insults Ali ibn Abi Talib? What if somebody curses Ali ibn Abi Talib? What they say about such a person? He's from Khulafa, he's from Sahaba. So naturally, if somebody insulting Umar is not reliable, then somebody insulting Ali shouldn't be reliable, because they are the Khulafa, they are the Sahaba. Whatever you say about Umar, you have to say about Ali. But when we look at the books, again we find the double standards. For example, Hurayz bin Osman al-Humsi. This is one of the narrators of Ahlus Sunnah. In Mazi, one of the Rijali ulama of Ahlus Sunnah, in Tahzib al-Kamal, Zahabi in Tarikh al-Islam, Ibn Hajar in Tahzib al-Tahzib, and Badruddin Aini in Ma'an al-Akhbar, they say that and Ahmad ibn Sulaiman al-Marvzi, he said, Ahmad ibn Sulaiman al-Marvzi says that I heard from Ismail bin Ayyash that he said, Adaltu Hurayz bin Osman min Misr ila Mecca. He says, I accompanied Hurayz bin Osman from Mecca, Egypt to Mecca. فَجَعَلَ يَسُبُّ عَلِيًّا وَيَلْأَنُهُ. All the journey, this man was cursing Ali and was bad-mouthing Ali. So a person who openly was bad-mouthing Imam Ali salam all the journey from Egypt to Mecca. Ibn Hajar Asqalani narrates from Ibn Habban. He says that Kana means Hurayz bin Osman al-Humsi. Kana yal'anu aliyan bil-ghadat 70 marra wa bil-ashiyya 70 marra. In the morning he used to curse Ali 70 times, at night 70 times. 140 times every day cursing Imam Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, Ali ibn Abi Talib. فَقِيلَ لَهُ فِي ذَلِكَ. Somebody asked him, why you have such hatred against Ali? فَقَالَ هُوَ الْقَاطِعُ رُؤُوسَ آبَاءِ وَأَجْدَادِ. Because he is the one who beheaded my forefathers, my grandfathers. Apparently when they were in the army of Muawiyah in Safin, or if they were non-Muslims before Islam. But usually these people they were from Syria and Damascus, they accompanied Muawiyah in the battlefield, and he's referring to those issues. So such a person that he curses Ali ibn Abi Talib 70 times in the morning, 70 times in the evening. What do you say about such a person? He says, سألت in Tahzib al-Kamal, and also Ibn Hajar Asqalani, and also Mazi, they say that Ahmad ibn Hanbal was asked about this Hurayz. فقال ثقة ثقة. He's trustworthy, reliable. فقال إذن ليس بالشام أثبت من Hurayz. There is no one in Sham more reliable than Hurayz. Why? While he is cursing Ali ibn Abi, no problem. Cursing Imam Ali is okay. And also there are other tawsiqat and supports that is there for him. Now, for example, Umar ibn Saad. You know, Umar ibn Saad is the person who was the commander of army of Yazid in Karbala, and he is the one who killed Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, grandson of the Prophet, Sahabi like Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam, Sayyida Shabab Ahlul Jannah. What will be the case of a person who kills Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? In Tahzib al-Kamal, Ibn Hajar in Tahzib al-Tahzib, when they come to Umar ibn Saad, فقال أحمد بن عبد الله الإجلي, he says, كان يروي عن أبيه أحاديث. Umar ibn Saad, he was the person narrating ahadith from his fathers. وروى الناس عن, and also there are hadiths narrated from him by people. وهو الذي قتل الحسين. He is the person who killed Hussein. وهو تابعي ثقة. He is from the second generation, and he's ثقة, he's reliable, he's trustworthy. So killing Hussein is no problem. Taking the daughters of the Prophet into captivity, removing their hijab, and taking them from Karbala to Kufa and to Damascus, and trampling the body of Hussein under the shoes of the horses is not gonna hurt the person's being reliable. What do you do with double standards like this? Yeah. Another one just to mention here is Ibn Qutaybah. You know, Ibn Qutaybah the Nabari is one of these Sunni scholars that he also has narrated the story of Lady Fatima, and the story that the second Khalifa and his people, they came and they brought fire to the house of Lady Fatima to burn the house. And so there might be some debates about the book. Inshallah, later on I will get into the issue with details. Now I just want to refer to the reactions of ulama, that's why Ibn Qutaybah has narrated this thing. Ibn Arabi, the famous Sunni scholar, in his book Al-Abasim min al-Qawasim, he says, فَمِنْ أَشَدِّ شَيْءٍ عَلَى النَّاسِ جَاهِلٌ عَاقِلٌ. The worst of the things that can cause problems for people is an ignorant intellectual, or مُبْتَدِئٌ مُحْتَال. Muhtal is a person who deceives, and Mubtada is a person who is innovator, he's Ahlul Bid'ah. Then, is there any example for this? If you ask Ibn Arabi, is there any example for the Jahil who is ignorant, who looks like Aqil? He says, فَأَمَّا الْجَاهِلْ فَهُوَ إِبْنُ قُتَيْبَةَ. Who is the Jahil? Jahil is Ibn Qutaybah. فلم يبق ولم يزر للصحابة رسما في الكتاب الإمامة بالسياسة. He didn't let any respect and any reputation for Sahaba after whatever he has mentioned in the book Al-Imamah بالسياسة. Ibn Qutaybah in his book Al-Imamah بالسياسة, he has mentioned things that nothing remained for Sahaba. So this is a Jahil who looks like Aqil. There is an insahha anhu jami'u ma fih. If it is true that whatever is in the book is narrated by Ibn Qutaybah, then he is the example of Jahil. So if Bukhari, if Muslim, if anyone else were about to narrate such things, they were Jahil. Ibn Hajar Haythami, he says, صرح أئمتنا وغيرهم في الأصول. Our imams of Ahlul Sunnah, they have declared in the usul, in the foundations, in the main books, بأنه يجب الإمساك عما شجر بين الصحابة. It is wajib to keep silent about whatever happened among the Sahaba. And when Ibn Qutayba didn't observe this, then Ibn Hajar says, مع تأليف صدرت من بعض المحدثين كابن قتيبة. But there are some books compiled from some muhaddithin like Ibn Qutayba. مع جلالته القاضية. Of course, he has a great position, he's a great alim, no doubt about it. But al-Qaziyah, but he has a position that it demands and it requires that بأنه كان ينبغي له ألا يذكر تلك الظواهر. It was upon him not to mention these things. The events he mentioned, it doesn't suit the position of Ibn Qutayba. فإن أبى إلا أن يذكرها. But if he was insisting, if he said that, no, I want to narrate these stories, it was upon him فليبين جريانها على قواعد أهل السنة. He has to mention these stories according to قواعد, according to the rules and principles of Ahlus Sunnah. There are rules for Ahlus Sunnah that they narrate their stories according to those rules. There are rules, there are regulations for Ahlus Sunnah that they mention those issues regarding the Sahaba and Khulafa according to them. What is that? He said that al-imsak amma shajara bainahum. We shouldn't mention anything about the conflicts and the fights among them. You remember I mentioned in the previous session from Ibn Abi Ya'la, from Zahabi, that we have to delete them, we have to hide them, and we have to change them. We have to sort of make it in a smooth way that then people's heart will love Sahaba. And he says that it is a surprise that a person like Ibn Qutayba, with such a great position that he has, how he could narrate such a thing. So you see, this is the heritage which is there in the books. That all the struggle was there to hide these things, to delete these things. And by such approaches, you shouldn't expect to find much in the books. And as I said, you have to, and we have to go into those books like detectives, and bear in mind that if somebody even wanted to mention those things in the very first centuries, it could be very costly for the person. The person could sacrifice his life and the life of those being under his authority and relatives. Just mentioning some virtues of Imam Ali, a great Imam like Imam Nasai was killed. Imam Hakim Nishaburi was imprisoned at home and his member was broken. And how could you expect those people to talk about these dangerous secrets and the realities, while it could be very costly for them? And they didn't usually write these things, or they wrote it in a very indirect way, unless after some centuries that there was a kind of expansion in the territory of Islam, and there was a kind of opening that people could talk about this thing, could find some courage to talk about these realities. So with all these things, this was the kind of premise and introduction I wanted to make to the story, to see that we shouldn't expect much declarations in very authentic books, like authentic from their perspective, like Sahih Bukhari, to come and talk about the details that Lady Fatima is killed by this or that. So by that approach, inshallah, we will go through the texts and the hadiths and the sources to see that what can we find in those books, inshallah, in the coming sessions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد